Good morning, Africa. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Akwa Ibom State. It's a beautiful day to be alive. A great Thursday morning to rise and shine wherever you are. My name is Uyai Anekan, and I am thankful to be here this morning doing this with you.
Of course, another day on Rise and Shine this morning. Many thanks for joining us as usual. But remember to always follow us across all our social media platforms, across Facebook, YouTube, and our Twitter at Spectrum T Online. My name is Janice Cobham. Thank you so much for doing this with us this morning. Oh yeah, good morning.
Good
I was just
morning.
looking at a video right now and smiling to myself. Of course, a video of former President Muhammadu Buhari taking a stroll, around his Daura township home, and all of the security details are not as much as it was when he was president. And I'm like, okay, this is life actually.
Yeah, this is life after retirement.
Yeah.
More like, but it's good to see, because just yesterday when former Vice President Musibajo's news came up, I just did a quick think, oh, where's former Mr. President?
I know he was out of the country, but he came back. I think this week, yes, definitely this week, yeah.
Well, he had said he was going to be as far away from Aso Rock as possible. Of course, also trying to do all the rest, and that he had not had technically in 8 years. So it's good to hear that he's finding pleasure in the life that he's living currently. Yeah. But of course, like you would always say, this is Rise and Shine, and we are here to talk Nigeria, the country that we all love so much, and a lot of things are happening. But this morning, rather as a flash news, on a very, very sad note, I must say 63 or thereabouts is an age where you still expect that people will wait around with us for a bit. If we say someone died at 80, 85, it's relatable. But when you're 60-something, you should still be here. But of course, yesterday we received the very sad news of the death of one of our veteran actresses, Cynthia Okereke. Now, the cause of her death is yet to be confirmed, but the veteran actress died at the age of 63. The late actress's colleague, Joseph Okechukwu, announced the sad news on social media on Wednesday. According to the filmmaker, he was about to pay for Cynthia Okereke's flight to come to the United States, but sadly, she died on Tuesday night. Of course, reports say she died in her sleep, but of course they would want to know other causative factors. But now Joseph wrote, rest in peace, Mwanyoma. I am shattered beyond words. The fact that I was about to pay for your flight ticket to come finish what we started, only to hear you went to be with the Lord just last night, is one of the toughest things I have ever had to deal with in recent times. He said, I pray I'm able to recover from this shock. Life is really just a mist. 1 minute you have it, the next you don't. And this is the part that I liked. For the more than 20 years that I have known you, you've been such an amazing, decent, and lovely soul to be around. I never imagined you'd exit so unceremoniously. Words fail me. Sleep on, Cynthia. May your gentle soul rest on till we meet again in glory. Of course, remember that them Clemson Connor, but thankfully they were released. But this is really a sad news, because if you remember very fondly, most of the old Nollywood movies that we grew up with had her face in those movies. She joined the movie industry in 1998 and acted in her first Nollywood movie, King Jaja of Otobo, right? So this is a great loss to Nollywood, we must say, and we've continued to lose some of the finest in
the industry. That's the painful part right now, and it's not to say we're losing them at old ripe ages. We are losing them at more like their prime, and it's not a good thing at all. Some people would think that, okay, maybe it is the after effect of the horror that she saw in the bushes of Enugu when they were kidnapped as well, because those are incidences where the trauma is always very taking a toll on people's health. So much of time you don't find people going through those kinds of horror and then come out and they stay long enough. They always have that traumatic effect that
PTSD, right?
Yes, that stares them in the face and all of that, and it affects their health as well. So losing somebody in their sleep, it's possible that she could be going through some kind of stress related issues, or she could be still trying to grapple with the trauma that she was being kidnapped with and all of that. But it's quite a pity. It's really quite a pity that our Nollywood industry is losing actors and actresses more like on a daily now, and it's really something that we need to pray about actually.
It's really sad. I think in this year alone, we've lost quite a number of them. And I know I was watching a video clip just yesterday, and it was Rita Dominic's birthday. And then we had some of those oldies in her own age brackets, being together and eating, they were having dinner. I remember reading a comment and someone said it's so good to see these, these age brackets of veterans.
They were tagged old cats.
Yes, and they stick together, and then someone was saying it's not something we see in the new generation Nollywood. So when you there's something you mentioned and I'm thinking we still have a gap of energy and character quality that the old veterans need to have handed down, but we are losing them in their prime when some of them haven't even retired from acting yet. I mean, she was billed to go to the United States and get a job finished, and then just in the prime of that she's cut off. So this is very hurtful. I know that the community of Nollywood actors and actresses will be mourning deeply at this time, but like you said, maybe it's something that requires that they collectively pray about their lives at this time. It's becoming a little too incessant.
Yeah, too incessant and quite worrisome as well. But we just pray that the soul of Cynthia Okereke will find repose in the bosom of the Lord. Just a couple of years ago, was it 2 years or last year now? Was it last year? We lost Emu, the lady in the Johnsons.
Yes,
Adam, people that brought value to the industry.
Exactly.
These are people, that try to use their experience and their art, to put down to teach people values and morals, of society. Now, you even try to like compare with what we have these days. What kinds of movies do we churn out these days? People just going to, the production factory, I'll have to put it like that, or location shoot, and then just cook up something in a couple of months, a movie's out, and all of that. So it's... And
then sometimes you watch the movies and you're thinking, okay, what exactly are we saying here?
Are we saying? Yeah. Yes, what exactly are we saying? But like I said earlier, may her soul rest in peace, actually. Away from that particular sad story now, let's go now for 2019, I think August now in 2019, when the then Muhammadu Buhari-led administration was on board. The borders were closed for some very certain reasons. But then again, we had the acting Comptroller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, Wale Adeni, yesterday clarified that not all borders now in the country have been reopened, saying that a thorough review process is currently underway. The custom boss made the disclosure after he met with President Bola Tinubu at the presidential villa in Abuja. Now, and according to him, while selected strategic borders were reopened in 2022, a review process is currently underway to assess the objectives of the border closure. He said as part of efforts to enhance border security and regional integration, he plans to visit the Republic of Benin to engage in discussions with the customs.
Well, it is not true that all Nigerian borders have been opened. The situation, the status quo ante still existing in the borders. If you remember that the borders were completely shut down 2018 up until 2021, 22, when some selected strategic borders were reopened. That is still the situation as we speak. And this was why we had an ad hoc arrangement of a special unit coordinated by the Office of the NSA to enforce that border closure. But as we speak, about 5 of them have been reopened. 4 were initially reopened and 2 more were opened after that. And that is still the situation. There are ongoing processes to review this situation against the objective of the border closure itself. And the processes are not yet completed. And of course, when the borders are reopened, it's not going to be subject of rumor in any.
This is important to address the rumor, because I remember even as at last week, there were some celebrations in some quarters that the federal government has opened up the borders, and then people were beginning to speculate how this was going to affect these kinds of business or that kind of business. So it's good to see that the CG has come out to, address the issue. We have just 5 borders that have been open since 2022, strategically for that matter. But then something that the CG said is very important and worthy of note. We're not just going to fling open these borders. Let's not forget that our terrains in some parts of the country is very security porous. So we need to be careful as to, okay, this border, what are the security strategies around here? Is it okay to open this border at this time, or we need to be nudged, you know, for a bit? And then it will also be important to ask that people that are involved in businesses should also understand with the federal government as much as possible, you know, take advantage of the 5 borders that have been opened so far. And now they're not also saying that more borders are not going to be open, but they need to follow due process to make sure that we do not open the borders of the country to our own detriment. Okay, so this is important, and it's good that this clarification is coming at this time, so that also bad eggs in the country do not also take advantage of the opportunity and begin also to swindle people of their monies and all those kinds of things. So this is instructive at this time, and people should take this seriously.
I like the clarification, because just like you said, there were rumors, you know, when the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration started, that the first thing that was going to happen was the reopening of borders. Now, there were nagging issues that actually caused the closure of these borders, and one of it was the violation and abuse of the ECOWAS Treaty on Movement of Goods and People, the smuggling of firearms and drugs, human trafficking, trans-border insurgency, among other things. Several infractions had posed like threats, you know, to the peace and stabilities and economies of member states. So one of the reasons that the borders were closed were these nagging issues that, you know, were just there on the front burner. And I think one major also reason that made former President Muhammadu Buhari to close the border was the fact that, look, let us begin to harness what we have. Let us begin to consume our local productions and all of that. But again, would we say that, you know, there are also some school of thoughts that think that the closure of the borders were not necessary? Because whether we like it or not, I think I was looking at something the other day that said that there were over 1,500 illegal routes, you know, into getting things in and out of the country. So it means that it did not actually stop smuggling. It did not actually stop the proliferation of small arms and light weapons, which was one of the reasons why, you know, we had the border closed and all of that. So I think that while the federal government of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is looking at, you know, trying to see how we can reopen and follow like due process in terms of reopening the borders, we should also be looking at ways that we can block loopholes, because whether we like it or not, the truth is our borders are even too porous, right? So we have illegal things happening on the borders. We've not even talked about the corruption of immigration officers at this point in time, because you say you have immigration trying to see how we can reopen the borders gradually following due process. We should also think as a government how we can begin to block some of those loopholes that will cause, you know, some of these illegal activities to happen.
It's very important that we check all of those things at this time in the country, and let's just follow due process. It's also important. Security is very, very important. But then when we also talk about the particular reason why the former administration had closed the border in terms of, you know, increasing productivity within the country, would we say that that administration had succeeded in that? Because we realized that even when they said, okay, rice is going to be locally produced in the country, Nigerian rice is even as expensive as the imported rice. So was it you know, a lose-lose situation? Did we actually win at the end of Nigerian made goods had gone up within these years, or it was just, you know, one venture that what would I say
was counterproductive,
you know, frustrated business persons, but yet did not yield the target, you know,
the proposed objective of, you know, the reason for the border closure.
And I think strategy and proper planning is important when we want to do these kinds of things. So when you say let's close the borders and increase productivity, there has to be measures you have put in place to make sure that once you do this, this will spike up. But it was just like
so it's more like in the country we tend to, you know, always put the cart before. Why do we close the borders when we know that we do not even have what it takes, you know, to boost local production? And then when you even talk about local production of rice and other staple foods in the country, you find that farmers are even, you know, the efforts of farmers are even stifled in terms of insecurity. So insecurity even became more, and then affected farmers, and then affected almost everything. So at the end of the day, would we now beat our hands on our chest to say, yes, we actually closed our borders for this reason, and because of that, we have also achieved a considerable amount of, success in terms of closing the border. But it behoves on, this particular administration now to sit down on the drawing board, review some of those things. Was it actually a good idea for border closure? Did it bring about any form of successes? If it did, yes, we can continue with that. But if it did not, then let's see how we open the borders, but then make it a little bit more structured in terms of putting the right people there, in terms of monitoring. Because whether we like it or not, the truth is, we are talking about custom officers, we are talking about immigration officers. Now, these set of people, they are at every checkpoint of our borders. How effective are to be at borders?
Those details,
yes, to be at borders, because they are making large chunks of monies. So people come, you want to smuggle in goods, or you engage in one corrupt practice, there's an exchange of something, right? And then you pass. So while the federal government is thinking of ways that we can better off the economy, boost local production, we're not even saying that local production is not good. It is good, but how much do we have in terms of capacity, in terms of the resources to actually do local production? So
government support for local producers.
Government support for local producers. How much do they even get as loans? We are talking about the Manufacturing Association of Nigeria saying that, oh, taxes are too much for us to even begin to produce. Now, so a couple of days ago, I think that the president actually, stood down some of these taxes, and all of that just to boost and help the industry. But then let us see how we can help our local manufacturers. Let us see how we can help farmers. Anchors borrows from a fund from the Central Bank of Nigeria. Fantastic idea. Now, what is the implementation like? Do these funds actually go to the farmers that are supposed to be using it? And then when we say, okay, they are going to somewhere in northern Nigeria, it just caught us, it brought about a snag in that particular, what do I call it now?
Secular production?
Yes, that particular sector.
Well, it's good at this time that the CG has had this conversation with the president. So it's more like fingers crossed. Let's see what, this conversation, this meeting is going to birth, especially with regards to, the border opening. He has said he's going to be in Benin Republic, to have a conversation with their security architecture. Let's, analyze and know if we really need to open these borders. But this is a great one at this time. But we'll just move on from that particular story and take our next major story. But this is a growing worry around the country, because this is happening in different parts of the country at the same time. Some of the infrastructures that were put in place just in the last days of the last administration is experiencing a lot of vandalization, and this now we are going all the way back to the second Niger bridge, where we have seen vandals steal things on the road that was newly commissioned. Now, in response to this, the federal government has ordered security personnel to begin surveillance patrols on the bridge and surroundings to prevent a recurrence. A source in the Works Ministry confirmed that the theft on Wednesday reported that the expansion joint walkway on axis 330 of the bridge had been stolen. Now, it's unfortunate, and but it is true. The stolen fitting is an element from the expansion joint of the bridge. Drivers on the road have to be careful, as the damaged part can cause discomfort to motorists. Now, he also said now the director highway bridges and designs, Omotayo Wonsanya, stated that the incident happened a week ago on the Onitsha side of the bridge. Now, he said the expansion joint at the median walkway of the bridge at access 330 on the Onitsha side of the bridge was stolen on the night of the 5th of July 2023, and then one side was removed. Now, this is happening back and forth.
Yes.
A bridge rather, that was just recently commissioned by the former administration, and we're wondering what exactly is going. But now, having this conversation, a lot of things are flying in my mind at the same time. Let's not also forget the airport. One axis of the airport in Lagos has also seen the lamps removed. and we are wondering, who are these people that are conducting these activities? Why are you vandalizing federal government property? We are already on one hand shouting that the federal government is not doing enough to provide infrastructure and amenity. The little ones that they're able to put in place, sinking in millions of dollars, we are now the ones vandalizing it. Janice, it takes us back to our conversation of CCTV cameras in the most important places of this country.
Yeah.
If we even say, okay, we cannot yet afford the technological stability to have it everywhere. Places like these that, was done on the new technology, the energy of new technology, should have seen, CCTVs mounted on this, second Niger bridge. I mean, it's happening across the country in different sectors.
Yeah, it's quite shameful, actually. That's the word I'm going to use for this particular act this morning. When we look at the fact that almost after almost like 5 decades of different administration trying to work on the Nadu Buhari actually came on board and said he was going to do it. We know that the administration of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan actually said they were going to do that particular second Niger bridge, but it didn't come forth from them. And then we had the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari come do it, and then it completed it even before he left office. So it's quite a shameful thing at this point in time to see that what so much money has been sunk into in trying to build is being destroyed. That you won't tell me that it's foreigners that came from nowhere to destroy these things. It will definitely be the locals in that environment that have decided to destroy these things and steal these infrastructures. Now, what is the thinking? What is the objective? Before the second Niger bridge was built and completed, we had issues of serious gridlock around along the first Niger bridge. We had even accidents happen in those areas. We had even deaths occur. We had of course, that's more like a trackway, a path to commercialization of goods and services because of the eastern states that are very commercialized. So you had the movement of goods and services. It stifled it as well. We didn't have much of it happening anymore because of the gridlock that we find on the first Niger bridge now. And then the federal government is coming out to say, okay, let's do these things. Let's make this work. Let's open up another corridor, that goods and services can pass very, very freely. And then we are having people come out to steal these things and make nonsense of the efforts of the federal government. It is terribly a wrong thing to do. It is counterproductive because at the end of the day, just like the report has said, you're going to be putting yourself and motorists in harm's way by doing this thing. So I think that attitudinal change is one thing that Nigerians should have. And I know that bringing it back now to Akwa Ibom State, Governor Umoino now has been always saying of recent, look, let us take government properties as our own properties, begin to have take responsibilities of these infrastructures, because at the end of the day, it is not government's infrastructure, it is our own infrastructure, because we are the ones using it. It is for the good of the totality of the country, of Nigerians as well. So when people do not take responsibility of certain things, this is exactly what happens. Now, people would say that, oh, it's an act of poverty. Everything now is being tilted to poverty. I'm sure even the poverty of a word is tired of being used, in some of these instances. So it's really a shameful thing to see that the second Niger bridge, just commissioned, I think in December now, is seen being vandalized like this. It's a no-no for me.
It's a no-no. Of course, we see that this particular project took the federal government 336 billion naira.
Yeah, so much.
And then we have to also look at the fact that this line that has been removed has to be replaced. In the pathway to, refixing those things that have been stolen, someone is going to pay enough for themselves. So we are just, recycling the whole system back and forth. But one of the allegations that has been raised as a part of concerns with this, this theft that is ongoing. Remember that in May, when this particular bridge was commissioned by the former president, there was a push for that bridge to be named after I think it's Nnamdi Kanu now. Yeah, there was a push for it to be named after the Igbos.
One of the Igbos now, but it was named
But it was named after
the
Buhari
former
outside.
president.
Yes, it was named after Buhari, and then there was that move and that agitation that it should be named after the Igbos and not Buhari.
But,
So
but again,
would this incite part of the reasons why you might have miscreants within that environment try to destabilize that infrastructure just in a bid to think they may be proving a point that they want this renamed in their
point
honor?
exactly are they trying to prove? I remember when that came up, it was a unanimous agreement between governors governors of the eastern states and the federal government, right? So it wasn't something that the federal government stood up on their own, to name that bridge after former President Muhammadu Buhari. But again, when we even say we are naming it after former President Muhammadu Buhari, now what's the crime in it?
This was something that was promised since 1978, 1979, and then he got it done.
He got it done.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Worthy of his honor.
Yes, it's okay to name it after him. But there were so much agitations now, I don't know where the agitations were coming from.
It came from IPOB, actually.
Now,
agitation.
for the fact that this bridge is in our locality, why not name it after? But honor should be given to whom honor is due to be given to.
And the infrastructure is in your environment.
It's in your environment.
He's not taking it to Dara. Do you understand? It's just the name. The most important thing is that this bridge has been constructed for the good of all of that eastern access and people that have to navigate to other parts of the country. Why not take the best part of it?
I don't even see it as being for just the benefit of the Easterners. It is for the benefit of the totality of Nigeria, because there are lots of tradings that are ongoing. Named after former President Muhammadu Buhari, let us go and vandalize. Then come on, I wonder where they are thinking from.
Exactly. But then again, that this brings us to the fact that I think you referred to it earlier when Governor Moina says if the state government puts up an infrastructure in your locality, is the responsibility of everyone in that community and that locality to take responsibility and make sure that this thing is duly watched. So I mean, the immediate environment, the immediate community that hosts this bridge should be held responsible for that vandalization that has occurred, because why is it that under your watch and we must note that when these kinds of infrastructures are going to be erected that cut across people's communities and take expanse of their lands, negotiations are had with community leaders, understandings and referendums of
compensations have been paid.
Given.
Yes.
So we must get to a place where we see that once this infrastructure comes to your community and something happens to it, we will hold that community accountable. We will ask what happened.
But why do people think that these government infrastructures are just government properties? Why don't people begin to understand that it is for the development of their community and the development of their lives?
Exactly.
Because by the time they did home and every month they sit at home, and we are going to destroy facilities and infrastructure that would enable development to come to your area, it's quite disheartening. And I just hope that the federal government, as they have said, increase surveillance, let surveillance be increased on the second Niger bridge, because if anything happens to that bridge, it will definitely affect everybody. Everybody, not just the Southeasterners at this point.
Well, the Nigerians that are involved in this kind of vandalization are not trying. That's just the best way to put it at this time. You're going to Second Niger Bridge, you're going to the airport in Abuja and other parts of the country. This is not good, and we ought to desist from these kinds of activities. But look at this time, the president of our country has been, conferred with the chairmanship responsibility of ECOWAS. What does this mean for Nigeria, and how is this going to affect Africa as a whole? These and more are conversations we are going to have when we return on Rise and Shine. Please stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTime's DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories and how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
As of state and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This was the label of Nigeria for Spectrum TV to improve for the life safety fountain.
A very good morning to you and welcome to your morning news briefing Spectrum. Live from Uyo, I am Mary Joseph. We begin the news brief with a report from the national scene where, against the backdrop of the removal of fuel subsidy, President Bola Tinubu has urged Nigerians to be patient, promising that he, with Edo State, conveyed the president's message after a closed-door meeting of the class of 1999 governors in the council chamber at the Aso Villa in Abuja. Away from that, Vice President Kashim Shettima has told the delegation from the United Nations that the federal government remained committed to issues of girl-child education and gender empowerment and will promote same in the policies and programs. Shettima reiterated President Bola Tinubu's commitment to issues of education and empowerment of women, noting that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is fully and unequivocally committed to the girl-child education and gender empowerment initiatives. From the Red Chambers, the Senate yesterday launched an investigation into allegations of bribery and corruptions leveled against officials of the Integrated Payroll and Personal Information Systems (IPPIS) at various universities across the Federation. The Senate also resolved to hold an interactive session with the heads of service, the national president of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, and the chairman of the Committee on Vice Chancellor of Nigerian Universities and other relevant stakeholders after it constitutes a committee on tertiary institutions. On the foreign scene, 53 children have been rushed to the hospital in Nairobi after tear gas was thrown into their class by police during protests. There have been demonstrations around the country called by the oppositions over the rising cost of living, but they have turned deadly. 6 people have already been killed according to authorities and human rights bodies, however puts the number of those dead at 12, with many more injured. And finally, in sports, Spanish top seed Carlos Alcaraz moved into the Wimbledon semi-finals for the first time and will face Russian third seed Daniil Medvedev in the last four. Alcaraz beat Danish seed holder Rune, another 20 years old, 7-6, 6-4, 6-7 in his quarterfinal. Now, Alcaraz and Medvedev, who have both won major titles on the US Open hard court, will attempt to reach their first finals on the Wimbledon grass when they play in the last four on Friday. We'll have details of this and more in our news at 12. I am Mary Joseph. Let's head back to Rise and Shine where we have Janice and we are on standby. Do have a wonderful morning.
State and government, Secretary General, distinguished delegates.
This was the label of Nigeria for Spectrum TV to improve for the life safety fountain.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Rise and Shine, and we're coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State, Nigeria. Of course, Mary Joseph just brought us tidbits of global news, and just before then, we had looked at a couple of issues happening around Nigeria. Of course, on our flash news this morning, very sad story. We have lost one of our Nollywood veterans. PG has said there is no removal of boundaries of border openings for the meantime. Only 5 has been opened since 2022. For now, all the rumors saying that the Bola Ahmed led administration has opened up all the borders are false. We also saw the fact that vandalization is currently going on the second Niger bridge, and of course the federal government has pushed for surveillance to take place around there, and security will be also increased. These and more are some of the conversations we've had on Right NG. We like the energy on Twitter at SpectrumT Online. Let's get the conversation going. At this point, we move straight to Daily Spotlight, where we bring you information from the front pages of our national dailies.
So many stories on the front pages of our national dailies this morning, but let's take a glimpse at some of the stories now. Looking at the Nation newspaper, the big story there says Tinubu remedy for subsidy withdrawal hardship soon. I don't quite the writer here says president asked lawmakers to approve 500 billion naira palliatives cash. Okay, we also have that Ladoja takes on marking day Olubadan Obas over still. There seems to be some kind of rift concerning the Oba stool in one of the southwestern states actually. CBN directs payment of dollar receipts in naira. You can find details of that story on page 5. We also have Europe bound. That story can be found on page 25. And federal government state to partner on electricity. And those are all the stories on the front page this morning of The Nation.
Moving from The Nation, let's look at the front page of the Punch newspaper. And the big story there says NLC protests Tinubu's 500 billion naira subsidy palliative, demand 300% pay rise. Reps sit on 500 billion naira subsidy relief request today. Federal government labor for by deregulation, says NLC TUC. Page 2 is where you can find details of that particular story. We also see here boards Obi kicks as Tinubu offers the position governor slots. We see here the details on page 9. Nigeria redeems $500 million bond despite revenue challenges. Page 19 is where we can find details. Army chief orders IPOP raid, rubbishes amnesty for bandits. We find details on pages 14 and 15. We also see here no Nigerian child should lack education, says Malala to federal government. We also see here reps probe contract fraud, revenue leakages in Nimasa. Page 14 is where you can find details. House to investigate 14-year power outage in Ondo communities. Page 8 is where you can find details of that story. After Obasanjo's revelation, Atiku can't label me corrupt, says Autumn. Page 16 is where you can find details, and those are all the stories that we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
We'll take a look at Daily Sun. The big story here says army to governors give oaths. Okay, you can find details of that story on page 6. Disquiet in APC over 30 billion naira campaign fund. We have that story on page 28. 6 core 1 mark each as NECO releases 2023 common entrance exam results. Page 29 is where you find that story. Navy uncovers sabotaged NNPC wellhead in Rivers. The writer says, as Rep probes Nimasa crude oil tapped. You can find these stories on page 6 and 27. Energy security. Federal government to attract $18 billion investment into petroleum sector. And then we move over to another story. Kogi court affirms Ododo's victory, dismisses Adeyemi's case. Page 4 is where you get details of that story. Ladoja sues Makinde, Olubadan, 10 new Obas, Attorney General. Page 26 is where you find that story. And those are all the stories on the front page of Daily Sun.
Moving from Daily Sun now, let's look at Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune big story there says, after removal of petrol subsidy, Tinubu seeks 500 billion naira for palliatives. Rights reps, Nigeria redeemed $500 million Eurobond through DMO. Details on page 2 and page 7. Dangote is still Africa's richest man with $14.2 billion net worth, says Forbes. Page 7 is where you can find details. Lightning strike kills 3 suspected kidnappers in Kwara. Page 16 is where you can find details of that story. CBN, Falana Spa, over 720 billion naira China deal litigation likely. Page 30 is where we can have those details. Court stops FCDA from demolishing Trademore Estate. Page 19. Rivers, reps to probe alleged crude oil theft. We have details on page 15. Maritime security returns to Gulf of Guinea as attacks surge. IMB says 20 ship crew kidnapped in 2023 half year. Page 30 is where we have details. Ladoja takes Makinde, Olubadan, elevated chiefs to court as for orders restraining defendants from preventing him from ascending Olubadan throne. Okay, monarchical systems have now gotten to court issues. All right, APC crisis. Why Adamu can no longer act on behalf of NEC, National Vice Chairman. Alleges party's national secretariat didn't fund Tinubu's campaign. Page 2 is where we can find details, and that's all we have on the front page of Nigerian Tribune.
I think those are all the papers that we have this morning.
Yes.
But looking at the Punch newspaper now, one of the stories that actually interests me this morning, Army Chief dismisses amnesty for bandits and terrorists. I know that this was one avenue that, the former administration of Goodluck Abela Jonathan used in trying to curb the insurgency that happened, around militants at that point. And one of the things that worked for his administration in terms of quelling the insurgency around the water areas and, these states was the provision. Was it in his administration? Now that's the administration of Yaradua, the late Yaradua, actually, yes. It was actually very around those areas, and I think that was when the setting up of the Niger Delta Basin development came on board. That's the NDDC now, to try to address some of the issues that made these young people go to the creeks, to foment trouble. But again, I know that when we had the issues of bandits and heathers and all of that, another conversation came up. Let's see how we can give these people amnesty. That's during the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari now. Let's see how we can give bandits amnesty to see if they will actually repent. For those that are repentant, though, let's give them amnesty. But we have that the Chief of Army Staff now, Major General Taoreed Lagbaja, is kicking against this particular amnesty program. Now, I'm going to read out his reason for group and attack innocent citizens. So for him, it's not the amnesty program now is more like a counterproductive program, and it's not achieving the objective for which it was set up for. And so let's look at other avenues that we can use in dealing with bandits and heathers and such crimes. Then again, the issue of even giving ransoms was becoming a problem. I know that was one of the reasons why the federal government said, okay, now it now looks as if it was business, right? When people kidnap people, carry people into the forest, they begin to demand for so much monies, and it now became like a business venture. So somebody just wakes up in the morning and goes into a community and begins to cut away people and then demand for very high help those problems. But if, Taoreed Lagbaja is saying that, look, it is counterproductive, it is not actually achieving the objective for deal with repentant, bandits and headers.
Well, there is a lot that, they can bridging that, because I think Dr. Getze will usually ask those of Bentans, bandits, and the like. So yes, we must also say that they are seeing that the whole amnesty initiative is not achieving the initial goal. Then it is imperative that it should be halted. Let's revise what it is about and see if we can. Okay, so there's a lot of this 500 billion naira request by the today. So in the course of business day today, we are going to hear the details request for palliative by the president, and also have the NLC TUC said, oh, we support, the president. NLC TUC is saying that 500 billion not enough for 125 million poor Nigerians, naira for 125 against the president borrowing 500 million, and they are saying instead of that we want our salaries increased by 300%. Well, I feel like fingers crossed to see what the House of Reps will say concerning
to the federal government asking for 500 billion naira for as increased salaries instead of this palliatives, rather than for you to, go collect 500 billion naira and give as palliative, cater for whatever it
5,000 naira.
5,000 naira. So if you're looking at what some at the NLC, people do what they want to do with their salaries, rather than 500 billion naira that will also be sabotaged though. Agreed. So increase salaries 300%. Now, whether the federal government has the capacity to do 300% or not is left for them. But I think that they have a stronger versus this 500 billion naira. But if not do any good
beyond a day.
5,000 naira. What do you want to do with 5,000 naira?
Billion naira is a lot of money, even when you put it against the economy. But then again, a quick increase the salary by 300%. Is it everybody who is working for the federal government? And if everyone is not working for the...
Talking about just increments for federal workers. We're talking about civil servants generally. We are talking about minimum wage now. If the federal government looks at it and see that, okay, we can afford it, then whatever it is that we have as FAC allocations that are going to each state, of course, these monies will be added there. So I don't also think that it is just for federal workers enjoying that particular 300%.
Not just for federal government. And it does not even cater for a large chunk of the 125 million people who are living beneath the poverty line. So we are saying when you increase salaries of workers, in the country by 300%, covering both federal and state workers, we are still going to need a way to take
into the pure water seller by the roadside.
Exactly.
Because the more money I have, the more I want to get goods and services, the more I want to do things.
But then it would not still negate the fact that there's going to be the need for those that are not directly under the payroll of the federal government.
Then it's up to the federal government and state governments to create job opportunities. That's just it.
About delivery of 5,000 naira every month, to what's that word? Vulnerable Nigerians. So we now start paying, monies to these families again. But the argument billion is not even enough for 125 million Nigerian. Candidate Peter will be kicking Tinubu Office of the administration is saying they want to run an all-inclusive government. So if he's extending an olive branch to...
of course, they've also talked about governance of inclusivity. If we are saying that, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is just nominations, right? It's something that is very, very commendable. But we'll just take a pause, and 1 week Tinubu being conferred with the chairmanship of ECOWAS community, how will that affect Nigeria going forward, and how will that also affect the muscle? We'll be right back shortly.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people. But there's an extra advantage if your product and service investment and so much more. Advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Many thanks for still being there. Of course, this is still Rise and Shine, and we're going to be looking at our focus conversation for this morning. It's so much buzz, actually. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu becomes chairman of the ECOWAS community. Now, this is quite interesting because, of course, he is a new entrant into that particular summit there as president. But we see that there's been a lot of conversations around this. And this morning, to further give us insight about some of the expectations of, Nigeria towards this particular fate of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and also looking at how his leadership is going to be affecting the ECOWAS community. We are going to be joined this morning by Comrade Ayodele Adewale. He is the organizing secretary, APC Lagos State. Good morning, Comrade, and many thanks for joining us today. We just hope that it will work out for us so that we will be able to have a good conversation this morning. But then again, so much has been said about, this particular emergence of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, future of ECOWAS states under his leadership. A lot is going to be going on. A lot will be going on. A lot will also be expected also. I know that one of the things he said, during his speech was that he was going to try to see how democracy will be instilled and preserved in some of these African states, because, of course, democracy is the way to go. When you talk about governance, there'll be a serious, halt on coups and coup d'etat as we speak. But then let's see if we have Comrade Ayodele Adewale. Good morning, sir, and many thanks for joining us.
Okay, the network seems to still be freezing. Good morning.
Good
Comrade.
morning.
Can you hear
Good morning,
us?
Comrade. We'll take a breather now and try to fix that. And of course, we'll come back right into the conversation this morning. Do stay with us.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did?
He never did.
he linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My Lord, the matters counsel is leading the evidence in our matter.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord, but we can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my Lord.
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my Lord. These cases are in court, my Lord. I'm just reminding your Lordship.
My Lord, sorry, my Lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
All right, many thanks for still being there. Of course, I think we can go on our conversation this morning. Comrade Ayo Adewale should be up now. Good morning, comrade. Good morning, conversation. A serious issues here. This is not going to give us a free conversation. This will definitely not give us a free conversation at this moment. Comrade Ayo Adewale, I think that we'll just have to stand down this interview at this moment. The network is really acting up and we won't have a smooth conversation. So maybe we'll just take a report on road signs, and we'll see what we can do about our focus conversation this morning.
The first quarter of 2022 recorded 1,834 deaths out of 3,345 road accidents in the country. Speed violations, wrongful overtaking, dangerous driving, light and sign violations can be traced to be the causes of these accidents. A number of them intentionally violates the signs, while some do not understand the traffic signs at all. Traffic signs or road signs are signs erected at the side of or above roads to give instructions or provide information to road users. Traffic signs can be grouped into several types, namely danger warning signs, prohibitory or restrictive signs, priority signs, mandatory signs, special regulation signs,
about road signs. What actually do we mean by road signs? These are specific structures or features that are being erected on the road, along the way, or across the road as we travel or journey along the routes. And these things are out there to give us specific instructions on what to do for our own decision making. The traffic signs, they are divided into three. There are three categories, major categories of traffic signs. The first we have here is what we call the warning signs. These warning signs are otherwise called danger signs. So you can either call it danger signs or you call them not all that we have. But if you have a copy of the Nigerian Highway Code, you'll be able to, avail yourself with much more of these traffic signs. You see this, which is another one here, another warning sign. And this signs from this inscription, it's all coming from a wider route that takes you to a narrower route. And in this case, it's expected that you need to slow your speed because you need enough shows you that you are entering or you are approaching a narrow bridge that also has a curve. Just at this inscription, you're already understanding what particular inscription. Here we have, this is what we call dangerous double bend. Dangerous double bend first to the left. This is the dangerous double bend that comes first to the left. The second one is the regulatory sign. Thirdly, we into two again. You have the regulatory prohibitory and also have the regulatory mandatory. So, and how do you identify them? First and foremost, you look at all regulatory signs come in this circular, which between regulatory prohibitory and regulatory mandatory. By important is that you need to understand that these ones that come in universal is positive, negative instruction, that's the prohibitory, is mandating you to do a specific thing. So it's giving you positive instruction. One of this particular sheet, this particular one, which is the general sign, has or comes in on traffic, you can find it even where it is rated. So where this one is self-explanatory, it's already reaching their police check. So the basic way to understanding, if you look at these ones, you see the inscriptions, these are every negative instruction. It's giving you indication of a turn to drive. That's why I said it is a negative instruction. A sign that gives you a warning or that to notice that yes, so there is an instruction that I stand it. Whereas you're having this in the turn, here turn and be able to get information or something, get application of common sense is very, very key here. So you can understand that. So that's the information. Supposing maybe you need the services of mechanics and all of that.
Into the traffic signs.
Traffic signs.
Traffic easier for people, 80%. In everything, pockets of people who will always beat road signs. Sometimes even those who have, I think it's all about individuals.
It's being red, so I had to stop. Of course, what would they do other than signals are actually prosecuted?
All the green light, ready. I think most
road signs and malfunctioned traffic lights in some.
Then I want to cross sometimes something. So most of the time they will know a car supposed to halt of the accident that happens here.
Sometimes some people would just obey the road sign.
And the road sign. When I was a little boy, hospital, school, market or so, what I'm trying to say is that when I live my early, because a lot of people today, until when they happen to see is to pray to God to guide us. We consider the problem of one another. It happens to us before we become cautious.
Signs which provide information to road users in regards to the provision of road signs. The Federal Road Safety Corps, FRSC.
You still need to go through driving school
for you to be properly trained, put gear, reverse and all of that. But you wouldn't teach about road signs. The man wouldn't have time to teach about, how to use the road in driving school. And that is why it has been made learning by driving schools, so that he or she will not only know the practical, but also the theoretical aspects, which will tell that, yes, this person has actually gone through. You can be issued with that driver's license, makes it compulsory for anybody, even though you have been taught by a form of training before they are issued with license. So, in general, Kwabamites that are willing to obey traffic laws, but we still have a handful of.
The agency also identified procedures under fixed and managed by the Ministry of Environment.
Okay, the road signs that are there. So FRSA do not introduce road signs intermittently, but like I said, to road users on how to use the road. So those signs you see that are there is universally used. What you have, in Nigeria is the same thing, are received, accepted by other countries. That signs that will be introduced will also, come from to be able to bring it to bear. But in that instance, road users, if it is done, it will be integrated into the highway code. Even marketplaces will also go to carry out sensitization. So we will have several measures through which we give out information, and we also sensitize the general public on road usage. For traffic, it's not FRS duty to install road furniture, but we also have a duty to play in that regard. Where we discover that there are not adequate road furniture authority, either the State Ministry of Works or the Federal Ministry of Work, as the case may be, letting them know that there are inadequacy in place to guide road users. For those road drivers and riders on the roads, where this road furniture, the signs, the signals, and the marking ensure that those signs are not just there for beautification or decoration, but they are there to guide them for safety. And anyone that is disobeying those traffic signs is due for enforcement, because for every of these traffic violations, they constitute danger to other road users. They pose danger to other road users, and those are things that we go against.
Apart from disobedience of road signs, some road users violate traffic. Matthew Olunishaye identified some penalties given to riders who violate the traffic rules and the danger involved in the use of one way.
Traffic will be fair to the road users. On the average, majority of road users obey traffic lights. Students to road signs too. To some extent, from based on our observations, majority of road users too, they also obey those traffic, popularly known as one way, which is highly injurious to themselves and also posing dangers to other road users. It is seen that anyone that is driving against the traffic, there are questions that one may raise. Is either that individual is just trying to do that with impunity, thinking that nothing can happen, or some also believe that maybe they are in a hurry. Or you can also raise a question that someone that is driving against the traffic, is this individual, his level of sanity needs to be reviewed at maybe hurry, and you are now being lazy in turning at the appropriate location, and you drive against the traffic. The man that is on his right lane, definitely such man will definitely get confused, and the process of getting such confusion, collision can occur, which can lead to unfortunately how they should be sanctioned. And for the purpose of this interaction, if one drives against
of road signs is self-explanatory. They restrict pedestrians and drivers from road signs. Drivers must be consistently conscious of and perceptive of road signs, as well as obey these signs without hesitation.
From our interactions so far, the necessary rules and regulations guiding the traffic signs. My name is Esther Otoyo. Keep enjoying the rest of our programs on Spectrum TV.
And I like the fact that the recently appointed IGP of police, talking about Agbitokun, he has also said that even police personnel Everybody
yeah.
must obey traffic regulations. Vans are coming, you have a gridlock, they'll just clear the path and clear the way for them. Enforcement agencies, and you're breaking the laws. What picture are you painting for the
does not know. Once we were taught in primary school, then we have forgotten, reappraise ourselves. But then again, you also notice that the knowledge, road signs that when you see, you know that, road crossing rights are supposed to be given to pedestrians, but yes, science education should be done large. At least it should help us cut down on the one with our interview as earlier scheduled. You were part of this. Of course, keep your feedback .ng. My name is Uyai and
media. You have it on your screen this morning. Do well to follow us and be part of the growing community.